grants from the tip money that we get from the transfer station. We have roll call, please. Oops. I guess I can use roll call. I'll come to the list. Why don't we go from left to right, starting with Eddie?
Eddie Thumb, Oregon City Commissioner. Carlotta Collette, Metro Council.
Rocky Smith, Oregon City Commission.
Carol Powell.
Doug Neely?
Anthony Moore. Nasika.
How many people were there? 1, 2, 3. Toby Forsberg is no longer a member. We had Carol, Anthony Moore, Carlotta, myself, Kathy Roth, not here. So we have the other members. Okay, very good. All right.
I just make sure you guys, if you can make sure and speak into your microphones because we are recording.
All right.
Thank you.
We did the roll call already. All right. We also have minutes from last year, for those that can remember back that far. Do I have a motion to approve, or are there any amendments that are there? They basically giving the awards we gave last year. A motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
One abstention.
And one abstention? Okay, and that's you, Lucky?
Yeah, so it wasn't at the last.
Okay, so one abstention. All right. Now, that's my agenda. This is the point at which we declare conflicts of interest if you're involved in any group. Now, there are two sets of conflicts of interest. One in which you might be a member of a group that's making an application, but you don't financially benefit in any way, and the other in which you financially benefit in some form. I will tell you that we did have, the City Commission had an ethics training, and a recommendation when you had an ethics training, even if there was no monetary gain and you represented an organization, it was recommended that you, in fact, not vote on those particular items. And are there any, specifically to the proposals that have been put forward here, are there any conflicts of interest? Yes, go ahead.
I've declared two, and I will be abstaining on these projects. I have a political contribution relationship with a party in the 10th and Main Street lot project, and I have a legal attorney-client relationship with a party in the Waterboard Park project. So I will put abstain on those two projects to Michelle, and she's going to take the average of, the people that voted on those two projects without my vote being in the average.
Okay. Mr. Smith.
I'm an employee of Oregon City School District, and there's a couple proposals from school districts, so I'm not really sure. One is actually from the high school where I work. I did through the ratings on all of them though, however, so I'm not sure. I'm also just listed as a member of Buy Local, but I think probably a lot of us are actually involved in the group. And that's it.
I don't see that as a conflict of interest.
I don't know about the high school. In any case, it just doesn't sound like you've been in any way directly involved in the project. Okay. I don't think it's not what you're going to see unless anybody else has an objection. All right. We're going to get a financial update, and I think there'll be a modification in the process of our financial update.
Okay.
Good evening, Commission. I spent a couple minutes on this big spreadsheet. It's under tab 5. There's the numbers are small, but you're used to that with me, I think. Basically, we have about 75,000 coming in a year. It's been look back, it's been declining every year for the last 10 or 12 years. That's mainly because of recycling. It's real garbage going into the garbage recycling center that we get 50 cents a ton on. So, good news and bad news, we're doing more green stuff, but it's costing this program money. So anyway, what I do, I sort of look at what projects we have left unpaid from prior years, and we had about 85,000 from last, going back to 2004 through 2010-11. So I take that into consideration, and I try to estimate what our beginning fund balance will be. And I think we're going to start the year about $150,000, and we're probably going to add about 73,000. We have 85 to pay off, and so I'd like to have a little bit left over at the end. So I figured if we paid 80 out tonight, we could have about 67,000 left. If you want to have zero left, you could pay out about 140 or 150,000. And there is another, since probably what the Mayor's talking about, we did have added one grantee that decided they didn't want the money for like $10,000, so we could probably make the 80 and 90, make it 90,000 safely. And that's really all I have. If you have other questions,
So you're recommending 90,000 to be spent?
I think you can safely go 90.
Why would we hold on to some of that?
Excuse me?
Why would we hold on? Why would we recommend holding on to 67,000?
If you want to continue giving 80, for several years we gave like 20 or 30,000 more than we had, and so we've been working our way down. So now we're down to like $60,000. If you want to strictly have $70,000 from now on, you can spend it all now, or you could start allocate maybe 10,000 of that each year for make it go. So you give $80,000 a year. But it's up to you guys.
That's basically it, I think, to have lots of money in the future. And this money comes in on a regular basis. When you say you could go up to 140, is that money that would come in for the remainder of the year?
Yes, by June 30th of 2012. Yep. We'd be sitting here next year saying we only got 72,000 or 70,000 to give.
It's the will of the committee here, but whether you want to make a decision now or if you want to wait until we go through the ranking and look at the value of the money that's available or we're allocating, is there a preference?
I think for my money, I'd wait and see where we land, and we can.
I know you are a mental counselor, and it isn't that you're a medic.
When we end up with the money, how much money we have, and
Sure.
whether we can, I mean, we don't have to give the full grant amount to everybody either.
That's true,
Right.
right.
So-
That'll be the dialogue that's going on,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, so we'll just leave that decision to the point at which we're actually start making decisions on our prioritization. Any other comments there? Okay, there's none. Well, here we go. I guess we have. I guess we may have actually 4 comments. You have a Hilldale Neighborhood Association application, and the issue here is that it came in slightly late. It doesn't necessarily affect this body, but we have another granting agency, the Oregon City Civic Improvement Trust, and that group made the decision if it was late, we would not consider it.
Right.
Now, I don't know if that's how everybody feels about that. My suggestion is if you haven't put it forward in the form of a formal motion, so we can have a decision. So that's the first one.
Can I ask a question just to refresh my recollection? Did we make the decision on OCCIT to deny that application because it was late, or did we decide in the future we would
Well, you denied it.
We denied.
Do you have the minutes of that meeting?
It was not, they did not receive funding, not because it was late.
Oh,
But those folks were not available here at the meeting to answer questions or provide feedback that evening.
And then I think we changed 3 o'clock deadline
The
to
5 o'clock deadline for next year.
well, let me ask a question. It wasn't in the body of applications we ranked. I didn't rank it because it wasn't in the body. Now, if we're going to consider it, then People are gonna have to consider what score they're going to get.
Yeah.
I did not do so.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't in the rankings.
No, no, I
No, it was not, and I did not include it until you make that decision, if you so include it. I have a spreadsheet, I can add those in once I get your ranking. So, it's your decision on making the choice of including it in the ranking or not.
Recommendations?
What did it come in that day? Just or
It looks like
Three
it's 6
minutes.
minutes. Yeah.
I would propose for consistency's sake that we do exactly what we do with OCCIP and accept it as late.
Before we start actually ranking our data, we may want to take a moment to look at it.
I think we don't have to rank the thing.
Yeah, that's right. And we'll take a moment to do so before we go for that. Everybody agree that we'll accept this one, but not in the future?
Right, and maybe we need to look at the time frame for this.
Yeah, and direction for the time frame would be appreciated as well.
For consistency, I would move it back to 5, like
Five.
we did with
Yeah.
OCCIP.
Okay.
Could you need that in a motion or just?
No, I think, unless you have somebody that's opposing that, we can go ahead and include it in the ranking.
Okay.
Okay, and that's under tab 6, you want to pull that. Now, we've got a couple more items you have to deal with there. We have a request from Park Place. We had a similar request from an OCCIT grant, and I'm wondering if there's anybody to speak to this from Park Place Neighborhood Association.
I have a question about this one too, because it seems to me that something similar to this occurred at OCCIP as well.
Yeah, it did, and we permitted the extension. We have a person here from Park Place to defend it. That's what I'm asking if there's anybody.
Is it the same? Is it the same project?
Well, it won't be the same project,
No, it's not the same project. It's related to the Holcomb. It's signage for the Holcomb and an
Two distinct projects
They were
funded
two
by the
distinct
two different
projects.
agencies.
Correct.
Okay.
And again, there were issues with the completion of the Holcomb pedestrian project that delayed.
Has this money been awarded though for 06 and 07? Just hasn't been spent? Is that what it
Correct.
is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a question with this because it said that the money was allocated for the sign, but the PTA instead paid for that, so there's funds left over. But what will the money be allocated for? What will it be used for instead of the sign? And that would be a big question in my mind,
Right.
as whether the grant is or not.
Do we have anybody from either the PCA or the Park Place Neighborhood Association to address that? I have a motion as to whether to extend it or not. That is, the motion is either to extend or the motion is to not extend it.
I think I'm of two minds on it. I agree with Carol's point that there is a lingering question about it. On the other hand, the rationale we used at OCCIP, I think would apply to this too. So if, for consistency's sake, just as with the time issue, I would probably just follow the lead of what happened at OCCIP.
Could I maybe make a request? Can we put this to the very end in case somebody from that neighborhood association does show up to answer the questions?
That would be my suggestion. We did have somebody from the neighborhood association actually address it, and why don't we hold that off
until the end, and
until the
maybe
end.
somebody will get here from that group.
Okay.
And do you know how much this one is? I don't see a dollar figure in here.
Do you have that up in moment?
Is it in?
I guess you can have somebody take a look and find it later, or if that's going to be our decision.
Yeah. Is that okay with everybody then?
That's fine.
No, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, we have one more, and this is a letter. Rural Portland was approached by the Singer Hill to act as official sponsor. we are releasing our interest in these funds of $10,000 so they could be put to other productive uses. So that's the $10,000 in question. All right. And then we had a request that just came in, I saw. That was for an extension.
Project for last year through the Rotary Club, the public
Oh,
art
yeah.
project.
This is the Singer Hill project from the Rotary Club, and they're asking to have their funds extended, $25,000.
We thought they might be done by this time, but obviously, per the letter, that they've got the artist in place. There's just issues in getting the art project completed by June 30th, which won't happen.
Is there somebody here from the Rotary Club that wishes to address us? We've got the letter.
I belong to the Rotary Club. That's my wife, she got that from, but I have nothing to do with it.
How do you declare that
I
conflict?
know you talk about it.
I move to extend it because we know what it's being used for.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, it passes. All right. I'll go get under my first tab and look at the agenda again. I think we're about to take some action on this. Review grant rankings and discuss.
So I think you,
Did I skip something?
the financial, oh, no, I guess not, never mind, sorry. It was very exciting, it was so exciting.
I mean, don't. She knows how I operate, so she has a lot of calls to answer. But so far, I think I'm doing okay. So we're now in the ranking area. Are we at a point where we can look at rankings or yet?
You can. I did not know if you wanted to at this point include Hillendale or not.
Well, do you want to take a moment to go ahead and take a look at and give us going to the Hillendale request?
Okay.
Let's do so. I might be taking 10-minute recess here.
The letter. Michelle, is this the whole? No, there's no letters or anything like that.
No letter of support.
And there's no in-kind or matching funds. So according to the criteria, it should be included, correct?
What is it?
It has no matching funds, and so according to the criteria, it should not be included.
I'll just make a statement. There's an expectation of matching funds. The matching funds does not have to be in the form of monies. It can be in terms of in-kind contributions in terms of volunteer work and so forth. It's just been pointed out that in this particular project, there are no matching funds, and I think that is a requirement that we do have.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I believe there's some in the volunteer hour. For the volunteer, the $20
it's not on the front page. It's
No,
on
it's
page
not.
5. Look, there's some page 5.
Oh, yeah, there's
Okay, it's not on the back.
Okay.
in the amount of $212.
So it's the total of those two, I presume?
Correct.
Is that 10%?
What's the requirement?
I thought it was 10%, and I.
Michelle?
37.
Michelle, can you check what the requirements in terms of match has to be?
For under, a project under, or up to 4,999, it is a 10% requirement.
This doesn't quite make it. If my additions right, I have 333.60.
Isn't there also a requirement of support letters?
Yes.
So it doesn't have that either.
This is the new neighborhood association, and I guess it's an experience. I'll follow up to other people. If you want to give an exemption, we do have a tremendous amount of requests that are already before us, and we're not going to be able to fund them all. So I'll take a motion as to whether to bother to rank this or not.
Why don't we do this? I'm wondering if it'd be an idea to hold it back and we find, for David's communications that we are going to spend more money. But it's not a large request.
No.
And there might be some, play in our funding at the end of the process.
Is that agreeable to everybody?
Sure.
All right, we'll proceed that way. You want to speak to this particular project at this moment, or is it a point of order? Come. I think that's enough to deny you the
Big prayer there.
Your time's up.
We like to pick on you, William.
I'm an easy shot. Excuse me, but I just talked to the chair of the Park Place Neighborhood Association.
Yep.
And he has a 7 o'clock meeting, but he is jamming to get down here, and he will be here.
Okay, very good.
And I told him that we could try to find some way maybe to get him on. This is just going to take a couple minutes.
It's not going to affect our rankings at this point because it may give us, if we decide not to extend it, then we'll have more funds available. But it won't affect our ranking process.
Yeah, but I
Yeah, that's good.
exactly.
Thank you.
All right. With that said,
All right.
are we ready to look at a screen ranking?
We are. I'm just making a save, so, doesn't get lost and.
What people may not be familiar with, you've got a toggle to the left for presentation, or your toggle to the left. And what you do is eventually, when she gets something on the screen behind us, it will come up before us.
Right.
It's going to give us this warning. Oh, it didn't do it. It went away this time. We have this statement that there's some problem and may affect our monitors, but it never has yet. But in this case, we don't. So these are the rankings that have been given. We've got averages that have been given. Have we gone ahead yet? And we have ranked from the top to the bottom already. That's been done. And the first one that ranks on the average top is the OC Farmers Market. The next one is the Main Street Oregon City Art Research Foundation for Educational Excellence. We don't have do we have a running total anywhere yet?
No, would you like me to put that in?
I think that would be helpful because if we do that, we'll see where our 90,000, we'll call it the 90,000 rate, if that's okay, falls, and it may give us a...
Never mind. Oh, yeah, that's right.
No, that's not a running total. Oh, that's running total. Very good. So we've got the running total.
So
You
here's,
got a breaking point between Main Street OC Earth Crusaders and Bailey Estates Homeowners Association. There's a breaking point on the 90,000. Okay.
Right.
I would also. Oh, that's not the case. I guess I ought to be a little careful on that one, because the next one down, Clackamas County Historical Society has the identical average ranking of Bailey Estates.
Yeah.
So you have to you have to consider that in our assessment there.
You're right.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure, Michelle, that the averages for Main Street Earth Crusaders and for the Research Foundation for Educational are averaged with
Yeah.
one less individual.
so it's set up on the sort as an equal average D to K.
In other words, there's no zero going into the computation.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's only if there were a value of 0 that it would matter. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, if it's a blank, it doesn't get averaged. Okay. The things we can look at, I think, are, and I think one thing is if we're going to look to alter grant amounts, we'll probably need to talk to the individuals, have talk to each. If we desire to lower that amount, we would want to talk to representatives from those granting groups.
Yes.
Does anybody see anything there that would be of a concern?
Michelle, do you have any concerns about any of these? Do you think they've all fit within the criteria?
There was one that came to attention of today. The Research Foundation of Educational Excellence. There was not a letter received from the city in support of. Through the process, I received stuff in. I give a timeline of here, follow up on this, and if you don't follow up, I mean, it's not there. So, or the letter was, and I requested a letter from Mr. Stewart from the city and had not received one at this point.
So, and Mr. Stewart, do you want to come speak to that, if that's okay?
Yes. Come on up.
Has the city been spoken to yet? No?
Well, there was no letter of support coming from the city, and I think your project was directed to a park of the city. And go ahead and sit down if you want.
Thank you. That's probably an oversight on my part. I was representing the Research Foundation. I did approach, of course, not the city as such. I'm not certain if that would be the city manager, or who would take care of that. I did address several council persons, and they felt that they could not voice an opinion because they were council persons, elected officers. So I guess at that point I did not pursue it. I have talked to a number of neighbors down there and people. I walk my dog in that hill 3 or 4 times a week. You have to different times each day, otherwise you meet the same people over and over. But there's a number of people that are using that park. The kids with their graffiti are back in town. They come and go and they're back again. The city has been good about cleaning up the refuge from the homeless populations that built camps up there. We took over the armory in '94. At that time, the drill floor was filled with transits and homeless folks living there. And unfortunately, when we moved in, they moved up on the hill. And there was a lot of clutter and debris that has persisted over the years. But that's such a beautiful natural area. I think cleaning all of that out and putting more people in there, everybody would like to use it, but it's not very inviting to a lot of people because of its presence, its persona. So if we can clean that up and make it user friendly and get a heavier density of population up there, I think that will discourage those people that are in there with graffiti, drugs, and other activities, and living there to move out because they won't enjoy that exposure. So what do you suggest, we can remedy this at this point or not?
I think normally when we see things that will either, a given department is responsible for, we get a letter of recommendation from that department, probably will be Parks and Recreation in this case. I see that Larry Potter is here, but I don't know if he's looked at this or has any opinion. Why don't you come up and speak? We were recording and you need to get.
Come on up, Larry.
Larry Potter is in charge of park maintenance.
I talked with Scott Arthur, the Parks Director this afternoon, and we haven't seen the request, so it's kind of, we're ambivalent. We can't say yes or no. So we have an opinion because we have not seen it. So, no review, no opinion.
One approach could be that we keep this on our list under a condition that the parks would make a recommendation. If they didn't support it, then we could perhaps pick up the next project. Is that reasonable?
Since it rated so high, I would.
Yes. And so that's probably what we're going to do. We're going to put it in rankings here. If assuming we get the support of the Parks and Recreation Department, it'll go. If for some reason it doesn't happen, we'll probably pick up the next project that we wouldn't otherwise fund. So that'll work out okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that'll be our approach. It did rank very high.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Is there any other issues that you know of, Michelle?
No, there are not.
Couple, just on the letters, the Eco parking lot, that's urban renewal property or city property?
I don't think it's urban renewal.
Renewal property.
So there's no support letter from the owners of or any for that proposal as well.
Yeah.
The other one I was looking at was the CIC, which in my mind represents the neighborhoods, and there's no support letter from any neighborhood group.
Which one?
For the community trailer, which may not be, it may not matter anyway.
Yeah, that's a tough one because
there,
they're direct, but.
I guess so I'm just curious about the.
You did get a letter from the police department
Right.
that was sent out just
In
now.
terms of the parking lot, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
On that one.
well, I think that's the reason that I actually ranked it low because the plans for that parking lot are actually to have a built environment. We actually have a couple of designs that, or maybe more than one that had been put forward. Although I don't think the Urban Renewal Agency specifically acted on those. But it's probably the property that the Urban Renewal Agency is talking about marketing for construction purposes. So we wouldn't know if in 2 or 3 years it would be a parking lot anymore. And that's the only, I ranked it low. That was the reason I ranked it low.
And that's something I was not aware of. That was urban renewal.
Yeah. So, this property is a little bit different. It's not it's property that is not truly public property. I mean, it's property that's intended to be sold. So, I don't know who we would get a letter of support from. Unless it would be the Urban Renewal Commission itself. And I'll somebody who actually ranked it high make a statement. I ranked it low, and I would suggest that it would be pulled for that reason.
Well, I didn't rank it high. I ranked it 4 because the parking lot is extremely ugly, And, you know, like anything in this town, it may take a year, it may take 2 years, but it'll probably take 5 or 10 before we build anything there. So that's the way I looked at it. And I think the only reason I knocked the point off was because of the question of the letter. So.
That's the way I looked at it too. It's a very visible entrance to the upper level of our city. It is the main way that people go up. And my question was, who's going to maintain the plants and water them? Is it going to be the city public works or? Good question.
I'm gonna invite, I presume, the representative of Third Crusaders to come forward. Since we're asking who questions.
Hi, Mr. Herman. How may I help you?
Well, no letters of support from the city, but on the other hand, we don't know who would have written letters of support anyway, because it's an urban renewal agency-owned lot. It's planned for construction ultimately. And the question that you just posed, go ahead and repose it.
Who's going to maintain the plants and water them and take care of the property owners?
As in any work we do, we are a landscape contractor, company that works with youth. We maintain things for 1 year or one growth season, whichever is longer. That's a standard landscape practice. The material that we're using is all drought tolerant. I mean, there's unusual names on this stuff. Desert plum, if you looked at the plans, they're all things that are very drought tolerant. And there's no soil on the site, and therefore 20 tons of rock must be brought in to build the elements that then contain the plant material. So we're using herbs, herbaceous material that requires very little water, dry landscape, xeriscape stock, which requires very little water. We'll maintain it for 1 year and one season. And, you know, I've done a lot of work in downtown Oregon City for the city for free in the past, and that would be, of course, my intent to try to steward that area over the next few years. We understand it's interim use. This is not a site that I would have chosen, except it was recommended to me by your downtown manager, and I agreed with him. It's a mess. It's kind of the gateway to the upper region. And so we felt that we could make an improvement there on an interim basis. We looked at landscape costs. There's 8,000 square feet of parking lot there. Presently, there's no definition of the parking areas. In this process, we'll define them. We'll regrade. We will establish new graveling strata, and then define all the areas, and presently, which is an unused area. 3 parking lot spots will be gained in this process, and people will properly enter and exit. Presently, they can drive out onto Main Street illegally. We're just putting a stop to that with the design elements that Lloyd and I brought together. As far as why there's no letter of support in the city, I was again approached to come up with a design to solve the problem in that area, and Lloyd and I worked together on that. And I guess you have to think of it from the standpoint of you're the interim owners until it finally develops. I can't answer that question. There's 7 other letters of support from all our donors, if you notice.
Yeah.
No.
I thought it was.
Or yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
Maybe
Public Works is here.
Okay. No, we understand. Well, you know, if I hadn't put a 1 on it, it'd probably be in the top 3 or 4.
But it's still in the total.
It's still on the total, it's still within the group.
Yeah, it's a very visible use of
Unless somebody wants to pull it, if I got a motion to pull it for any reason, we'll see. I'll pose the question, given it's the parking lot, given the parking lot designation is a temporary one, and it's intended to be a built site, the $11,000, under the unlikely situation that we sell it in the year, of the $11,000 being invested for 1 year.
I hope you can solve it.
I think that is unlikely, don't you think?
I think it is unlikely because that lot has been there for a long time without any buyers.
I do have to understand that there's $2,000 worth of
of basalt that needs to be secured, and another 20 tons of related rock, which we're supplying as our donation, along with all the tools and manpower. So you can look at the investment as potentially a risk. On the other hand, I'd like to see you take 8,000 square feet and remodel it with basalt walls, dry landscape materials, birdhouses, and plastic lumber benches for $11,000. I'd like to see that happen.
I'm not going to be pigeons, are they?
Pardon?
Never mind.
It might just get someone's attention enough that they buy it.
That's what I was saying. It might be a pretty good investment.
That's right. It may make it a much more attractive site. That's a good point.
So, what did you do on the last one with the,
In that case, we dropped it to the bottom, but we did have a letter of letters of recommendation in this particular case. So it's just a case of who owns it, but we know who owns it, and members of the city commission, if they have some problems with that, can go ahead and address that. I had a problem, so I ranked it as one, but I have no desire to pull it.
no, I don't either.
Okay, so the ranking list as it stands holds. Now, my questions was, are there any amounts that anybody wants to look at, whether we could reduce or not, and to cover more projects? Dave?
I see that the Park Place chair is here.
Oh, yeah, come forward.
Would he like to talk about?
Let me make a comment. At this point, nothing that we're discussing is affected by this.
Right.
If we grant the extension, then the 90,000 we're working with, or whatever it is still is available to us. If we don't grant the extension, we have a little bit more money available to us, just to make it clear what it is. Yes, sir.
Good evening.
There's no proposal before us.
I'm aware of it.
Okay.
At the time that William gave me the phone call, I was in the middle of a salad. I had to brush those out of my teeth. I have been on the Park Place Neighborhood Association for 7-8 years now, and I remember hearing about this, and it was being discussed years ago. I was not involved in it. I do know, however, that it took quite a while for the sidewalks to go in. A lot of changes took place to those sidewalks from all the meandering, and it's interesting. I had this conversation this morning with the PTA because they were talking about other kind of signage. And we were talking about the fact the original plan and intent. I believe that this grant was for different kinds of signage to tell about what the Oregon Trail is and the significance of Holcomb Boulevard. The detail of it, I don't know, and it was true. I wanted to get down here. I could not reach Nancy Walters to find out the details of what she may have known. She was our past chair for 2 years, and I've just kind of stepped into that capacity in the last few months.
I guess some of the assurance that we would need it would be that the Park Place Neighborhood Association's leadership, that would be committed to actually taking this project forward and actually doing something within the next year. Because I think if we see it come back as a request a year from now, I think we'd be disinclined to extend.
Totally understand.
Well, we do understand that the Holcomb sidewalk took some time to put in. There probably was some time to deal with these things, but as long as we hear from you at this time a commitment that this will go forward, I don't have a problem with it.
For what it's worth, not knowing what our leadership will be in the near future, I can commit to you that I will bring it up to everyone at the next time we have a general meeting, but a steering committee meeting, since those are the individuals who will be most aware of how we can approach this and go forward with it. So
I don't think there would be any objection from the leadership. No matter what that leadership is.
Any attention they can get to they love it. So we love it. So I will bring it up right away, and I apologize for the delay. There's been several years of inactivity, so we're trying to get everybody motivated to get those projects and grants completed. We also, I believe, have another one for Oregon Trail signage. So if it's me, I'll be making sure these things get the attention they deserve.
Do you know, my understanding is the grant was originally for a sign, which was then put in place by the PTA. So do you know what, if we continue it, what are you going to use the money for if the sign was already purchased by the PTA?
Thank you. The PTA sign was kind of a surprise for us. And I think that they raised some funds to do that. That's not the only sign that was intended. The signage that I believe was Park Place was talking about was regarding the Oregon Trail and what was significant.
Another grant.
That is, but this I meant along That's on the Oregon Trail portion itself. But
That was
this,
approved. That was approved in the other granting easement.
right. This one, I believe, is more along Holcomb itself for people as they're walking, just to let them know. Again, I don't know all the particulars, and I will look into it because I was unaware about all this. I knew it. I thought it had already been addressed years ago. I hear it since 2006, and here we are, 2011.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I'm not personally in responsibility, but hopefully I am now. The key to this is I'm not sure what the signage was, but I believe it was about you are in Park Place neighborhood, the end of the Oregon Trail. I know we have two at the entrances to Park Place. What that exact signage was going to be, I thought it was more to let people know as they went up and down Holcomb where they were and what was going on. And I know it wasn't totally tied to the Oregon Trail. That's a different subject.
Okay.
That's the best I can tell you.
Okay.
Hope that helps.
Yes, thank you,
Okay.
Tom.
Thank you. I'll go back to my cucumbers. Have a good evening.
Can I speak to that?
Yes, you did.
Just because of my involvement with the OCCIT grant.
This is William Gifford speaking.
This is William Gifford speaking. In the fact that we extended the OCCIT grant with the contingency that it had to be finished within the next year. And my suggestion is that it looks like Park Place is going to be able to live with the same type of contingency on this particular grant.
That's a good idea. Thank you.
Yes. I think that's what Doug was saying. Bring it back, and it probably won't go back.
I'll address it as soon as I can.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom.
One thing, if you could, that would help, if you could parse together whether the amount that you have in there is now less because the PTA made a specific monetary contribution. I'm not sure we could tentatively award anything based on that, but it would make more funds available then in the next cycle.
I will find that out tonight.
Okay, good.
And if I can email yourself, you can do
Could you?
to you. Or do I have an email address?
Okay.
I'll find out tonight and get you a response tomorrow.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay. Now, are there any of these items that anybody would like to look at and see if the amounts might be reduced so that we may catch some other funding sources?
Right.
Two of the more I'm trying to look there again. Well, I guess it's one of the more expensive ones is the Clackamas County Historical Society, which has a $25,000 grant, and then Daily Estates is not as much as $18,000, but those are the two that drive the funds somewhat over $90,000.
I agree.
On the Bailey Estates, what I noticed is the play structure is estimated at $11,500. What about that? And the pergolas maybe in the future could be built by the Oregon City High School.
Do we have, well,
Since they'll be finished up at West Inland Park, they need another project.
It may not be an issue. This is not a public park. It's owned by the homeowners association, but that might not be an issue for a construction class. But they've been doing a good job to come to every one of our Oregon City parks, and I'd like them to keep coming to our Oregon City parks. But in any case, is there a representative from the Bailey Estates Homeowners Association? You want to come forward?
There was one other quick question I had too. It says the city owns property on Glen Oak Road that is earmarked for a park.
That's true.
It has been for over 10 years. They have no money.
Well, no, we only bought it 2 or 3 years ago.
That has been the plan.
Yeah, we only bought it 2 or 3 years ago.
It's been the plan for many years. People who live in that neighborhood for 10 or 15 years have been told that there will be a park
Right.
built, and it is not.
And her point is well taken. We had the Wesley Lynn Park was procured probably something like, I would guess, going on to 16, 17 years ago when it was procured, and it was more than 10 years before anything was actually done at the park. So even if we own it, it takes money that we don't have to do
Yeah, it's
that.
not clearly said that they do not have the funds and supports improvements to our park.
Let me state what we have in terms of our ranking. Your project takes us over the 90 we're talking about, and the question I think you were posing was whether or not there's an item that we could include from yours and exclude another.
If we could just get enough for a play structure, we would be happy. To be
Okay.
completely honest.
Yeah.
I mean, none of you live in our neighborhood, but if you did,
Yeah.
you would live in the only neighborhood in Oregon City that does not have a park.
Yeah.
We drive to your neighborhoods for our kids to play.
But
right?
your
Yeah,
request
I
is,
understand that.
your request is for 18,000. How much would you modify the request to?
Well, to be able to do the site preparation and to be able to put in the play structure is roughly $12,000. We would probably need, what would you say, $10,000 at least to be able to do all the site preparation and be able to put in a play structure. And
Well, if you do $10,000, you're very close to the 90 that we talked about. So you're willing to accept that amount?
we would be more than willing to accept that.
Okay.
Everybody agree that we could put in the 10,000 on the, and you've been here before, I
Yes,
know
we
that,
have.
and I know how disappointed you were last
Yes.
time. And,
And everyone in our neighborhood that doesn't have
yes,
a park still.
yes, no, so I understand that. And you're committed enough to give us another, try.
Yes.
So I suggest on the request to put it at 10. And that'll change our figures, and that brings the running total to 92, which I don't think is gonna be a make or break. I mean, we'll be
No, I
with
don't think so.
92 anyway.
What? 357s.
So you say that we're tied with Clackamas County Historical.
Yeah.
Well, Clackamas County Historical Society is requesting a $25,000. Is there a representative of Clackamas County Historical Society here? And then we might go back up the ladder, go back up the ladder and see if Main Street, Oregon City Art is willing to cut down their request a bit.
Lisa Christopher, the Executive Director of the Historical Society.
Yes.
So I plead my case.
Yes, basically, you're.
The Stevens Crawford House has a hipped roof with sloping sides that features an original concealed wood-framed gutters. They're underneath the rooftop. And they're lined with galvanized steel. The gutters were common for homes built in that era in 1908. And were designed to last 100 years. So they're 103 years old. And some of the gutters, they're 103 years old and failing, causing damage to the soffits and eaves. And some of the downspouts also are disconnected or clogged. In fixing the roof and gutters, you would prolong the life of the historic home. And without the project, the home and its historic artifacts from attic to basement are at risk. And I would hasten to add the ironic juxtaposition of the home next to the Ermitinger house. Here you have a home that is in danger of falling in on itself literally at any moment, the Ermitinger house. And here you have, right next to it, the Stevens Crawford house, which you can intervene with tonight and do something to save. So, no guilt there, but I'm not that doesn't mean that, the other projects in front of it aren't less worthy, but ours is really critical to the life of the home and the historic value it contributes to Oregon City.
Has the Clackamas County Historical Society completely separated from CHP? Can you tell me how the relationship with that is still?
We are separate entities. We are not tied to CHP in any way.
Anymore.
Yes, sir.
So what's CHP?
Heritage Partners.
They manage the museum or the End of the Oregon Trail Interpretive Center, Museum of the Oregon Territory, and the Stevens Crawford House.
It's been about a year and a half since that relationship was dissolved.
No, I know that, but there's still fingers attached. So
not financially or anything like that.
That's what I wanted to clarify.
Your boards are separate.
I'm sorry.
Your boards are separate.
Yes.
There's people that are shared on both boards.
Yeah,
That's correct.
there are people shared on any boards.
Yeah.
Anyway,
True.
I'm going to ask you this bluntly: is there, If we told you that in order for this to go, you'd have to shave off money, what would be the minimum you could come up with?
Well, it's difficult to say. We've already spent about $3,000 this winter making improvements that were temporary fixes to get us through the heavy rainy season. We have $13,000 in cash that we can put forward to this part of the project. It is a two-phase project totaling nearly $60,000. And this is just to repair the roof. The second phase is another 20-some thousand to do painting, and we're deferring that this year. So, in answer to your question, not a lot.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Mr. Nasir.
The Ermitinger House, I think, does frame this application for me. It's one of the reasons I gave it a high score. I would not want to shave off of this one, and I'm sure there were many junctures where there were penny-wise and pound-foolish decisions made on Ermitinger maintenance. And especially given the destructive force of rainfall and water, I would, if we could, really advocate for maintaining the entire level of funding for this request. I did want to ask David Wimmer, though. David, what did you say that if we wanted to, what was the highest amount we could get to?
140,000.
That drains the entire pot.
Drains the entire.
Was that the plus the 10 or not? Okay. That's plus the 10.
Okay, so we stay within that level if we do fund this.
Yeah, we do. I'm going to.
There's no reserves.
Yeah, I'm going to make a suggestion that we. I might call you back. I'm going to have some other people come up and talk about whether they can do some shading too.
Okay. I'm good with that.
Thank you.
Have you applied for grants to anyone else for preservation of this house?
For this project, no.
Because the Kinsman Foundation specifically, do you know about them?
Yes, and to be quite honest, this grant cycle came up sooner, and it is a critical factor for us to deal with this ASAP, and so that's why we have taken this tact with application here.
Here, so
I rated it low.
You might look to them.
Yes.
I rated it low because it's such a big amount, and because I know Kinsman Foundation does this kind of project. Not that that's any sort of guarantee, but they would be another source for you to go to.
Well, as you're probably aware, we are separate now from CHP and have been for about a year and a half, and have been working hard to get our sea legs back in terms of being a historical leader in the community. And there have been many projects. I mean, I could go on forever, but things that need to be done. And the roof is, from the time I came on last September, the roof of the Stevens Crawford House has been something that has concerned the board as well as people who volunteer at Stevens Crawford House. It's a critical factor, and we've got lots of ducks to get in a row. We're trying to get, like I said, our sea legs back, and this would be a huge boost.
Thank you.
Okay.
Who paid for the roof the last time it was redone?
I can't say. It was some years ago, and I can't. I'm not familiar with the project to be able to say.
Was how? Because it was not too long ago.
It was. I'm not sure.
Part of it was done. The roof was not done properly, and that's what's
my understanding. It was not done properly. And this contractor that we have would restore the house in its proper historical context.
Right.
And the Historical Society owns the property?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to tell you what I hope. I'm going to kind of put forward a goal on my part. It doesn't necessarily reflect anything else. We have the Bailey Estates Homeowners Association, Clackamas County Historical Society are tied in rank. That's kind of a breaking point I'm kind of looking at, and whether we can pull. I'd like to pull that down if we could to about 110. That's not that much above the 90 we were talking about, and it's going to rob a little bit from the future, but the Clackamas County Historical Society future depends upon a roof, and so I think it's really important that if we can pull that one in. But since we both ranked Bailey, and we may have to go some other rankings, but the Bailey estates were here last year, and we turned them down, and they're being persistent. And so it'd be nice if we could pull those two into it. But I'd like to see our total be at 110, so that we do have a bit more. We're gonna have less next time to probably work with, but not have that much less.
I have a suggestion, and I want to explain my low ranking on the Oregon City High School construction class. All the projects they've done in the past have been fantastic, but being given the low amount of money we have this year to give and the high request, those parks already have benches. Dugouts would be used only a few months out of the year. It's not something that's every day, and it's added maintenance to the parks. So at this point in time, with all the requests we have and all the money that's been given to the Oregon City High School construction class over the 6 years I've been on the committee, I ranked it low.
It might be a basis for us to reduce it. I will tell you that it's not only what they do for the parks, it's what they're doing for education students. I mean, those are, there's one of the rankings is as you create employment, well, not directly, but you're creating a skill set that becomes very important as students leave school.
But they're still doing a project right now, West Woodland Park bathroom, that is not completed yet, so they're still in a project at present.
Right. Well, it might be a basis maybe of reducing. I wanted to actually, and you want to call them up and ask if they can do it for less?
Sure.
It doesn't mean we can't pull it, but it does generally have a high ranking. Are you in a position to say that you can actually, you have to be like you're a student, am I right?
Yes.
So,
Can you just do dugouts maybe in one park to start with, and then maybe next year do another park? I mean, does it have to be all the parks? Or 2 parks? Can it just be 1 park?
Okay, so my name is Miguel Carrillo, Morgan State High School Construction. And we feel that 10 dugouts for 1 year is appropriate just because the amount of students in the class, and we can reduce it to 8. We were planning on putting 4 on the Westland, adding 4 in the Westland Park to complete that project, just because with all the accessories that we've done lately, we feel that a nice park with baseball fields and without dugouts is kind of like it's just it doesn't feel complete. So we want to keep those 4 there, and then our plan was to have 6 in Chapin, but we can reduce that to 4, and that would still be a project doable for all of our students throughout the whole year. So we can reduce 2, and that would reduce the price.
So that there's 12 or 10 altogether?
There's 10 altogether, and if we reduce it,
We can write an equation about 0.8 times. You guys can do that today. And multiply it by 17,500.
We're supposed to do
Times 17,500. You need a pen? Who's the math quiz? 58.8 multiplied by 17,500.
Yeah, can we borrow a pen?
Yeah, sure. I'll give you a pen. The point is because you got 8 out of 10, so that comes out 0.8.
The 3,500.
Okay.
The cost breakdown though per dugout is $1,750.
Okay, so we need to multiply the 1,700
Times 2.
times 8.
Right,
That's the total.
right, yeah, that'd be the total.
So you're giving me the reduction, is that it?
Right, yeah, the reduction would be,
So the 20 you'd be asking for the 8 would be what? You did the 0.2 times 17,500, not the 0.8 times 7. He did the calculations. Did he check it now? Was that calculated? What is it?
14,000.
14. Do you want to put 14,000 in there, Ben? Okay, thank you. We might come back to you.
Thank you.
You weren't expecting that, were you? I was going to request the OC Farmers Market to come forward. I think the request this time is more than it was last year, just to give the Oregon City Farmers Market a chance to argue its case and whether you're willing to shave off some. You want to take 0.8 times 14?
That is so my strong spot. Yeah, right. Well, these are operating costs, pretty much. There's 1,000 for personnel services. So I was actually been crunching numbers back there, all scribbled all over here. I actually reduced the event costs by 700 this year. I've been trimming all the categories of the market because my absolute determination is to make all the markets sustainable by 2013. So that's my goal. Just about got this main Saturday market just right level. So these ones still need funding. The revenue does not cover the costs of it at all. I could just, take out the $1,000 for personnel services. That's site services, that's the porta potties and the banner fees. So that's the fees that we do get charged by the city, and we obviously have to have a porta potty. We just added insurance costs there because, we have pretty high insurance costs, as you can imagine, and that's the portion allocated to the downtown markets. Transportation costs for both markets, we've only got 100 in there for that. So I'd say the event costs, we have to have music, it's part of the ambience and part of the kind of cultural piece of the market. So project administration costs, that 5,530 is really just advertising, and that's at least 1,000 shaved off what it was last year. And I'm really trying to think outside the box to bring advertising without paying for so much. So the only thing I could perhaps capitulate on is the personnel services, which is 1,000, if that would help.
What's involved in the personnel services?
Well, that's sort of a portion of my funding. But,
Last year you applied for 6,000 and received that, or was it?
Yeah, we received 6,000, and we actually weren't going to come for any money last year for the Metro Enhancement grant, because we got seed money from business license funding, I believe. But then we got hit by really unforeseen, that even the city departments didn't realize that there was a clause that any market that opened before 6 during the week had to have a conditional use permit. So after we got granted the funding, and we got hit by, I think the total was about 5,000 for conditional use. And then also the city public works decided they needed to charge for banners, so then we got $1,500, fee for banners that were unforeseen. So to make up that portion is why I came to Metro last year. So.
Let's put 13,251. Let's make it 13,250 into that for a tentative workout. I was thinking of maybe having Main Street to Oregon City Art. Is there somebody from Main Street? I see Lloyd. He's been through these negotiations before. I probably wasn't too surprised it was going to happen. But.
Come on, Lloyd.
You see, we got our running total down to Quackmas Historical Society right at 112 right at the moment, and we're getting down to 110. I feel really good. Anyway,
I'm in the back, I couldn't see, so now I can finally see numbers, but.
you're second from the top, which means you rank high.
Great, it's a good project. You know, we're trying to carry on the quality of work that we hope to see at Center Falls, the Center Falls art project. We haven't committed to spend any money yet, so if we need to do less art, less breadth down the street, fewer pieces of installation art, we can adapt. It's rare that I get to say that, but this is a flexible type project.
We put 14 in there, 10 of the way.
I think it's good. Rocky had a finger up.
The question, I have a question written down. The Singer Hill art project, I understand it's a completely separate project, different group, but within the city, one of our goals as a commission that has been talked about is bringing the Arts Commission back. The Arts Commission is not active at this point, and so the Singer Hill project's going forward, utilizing the art committee that was assembled essentially for the elevator project. And so I guess my question is as we continue to talk about Arts Commission possibly coming back, what role, because to me that Arts Commission would have probably a fair amount of a role in selecting art or being a partnership in the group with Main Street on something like that. So I guess if those things are going parallel, I wonder if I understand that this is also a connector for multiple other projects, so it's nice to have it done. So I'm not really implying that it necessarily wait for the Arts Commission to be formed before this kind of a project takes place, because I think, as like I said before, it may take a few years. But hopefully not. I always use that a few years as a general. Sometimes many things happen in a year. But I guess maybe that gives us, because there is some unclarity there, maybe that gives us a little wiggle room. But
I think my understanding is the city has a policy,
right,
on public art, and so we'll follow that policy.
Right.
If there's an arts commission that we can work with to decide how that gets spent, great, and if not, we'll do it with Center Falls Public Art, who did inform a group that can.
The thing that's I think crucial about the timing though on this too is because it is connected with the TAP money that we have put into signage for connecting the promenade to the riverfront. It's connected with the sidewalk and street improvements for downtown. It's connected with the improvements at 10th Street. So there's a lot of things going on there, and it would be great to have them all happen at the same time, in my mind too. But, all right.
You're right on.
So, are you suggesting a number to go in there? I threw 14.
No, I'm not.
14 works for me, yes. Especially if we can talk to the code
How
enforcement piece and how we can get another one out of that or something.
How far away are we from our?
Not too far, but I think we have to shave it a little bit more. Even if we did this, we're still going to have more than 1,000 to go.
Okay. 2,500 more.
Okay. So we'll put in 14,000 there.
And I had one more, I guess, forbearance. I know that the Downtown Business Coalition worked on the one for cleanup for 3,000. I've seen it. There's no. They can figure it out.
I didn't think so.
Yeah, no.
Clarify that.
Possibly the code enforcement one, maybe there's some wiggle room there.
Want me up here anymore right now?
Thank you. Do we have a code enforcement representative here? This, I believe, are funds that essentially fund the cleanup day.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what it sounded like.
And it's a major project that many neighborhood associations make use of. I mean, it's a major program.
Well, I know, I think, I don't know about specifically this one, but I know our Metro Enhancement grants for cleanup days, we've been having to cut those back. So I completely support being able to backfill this money if we can, but if we need to only lose 1,500, and you know, there's a little bit more in here that we could talk about maybe.
Yeah, I think there's too. I was actually going to come back to the Research Foundation for Educational.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, can you come back up? Yeah.
That one's.
We're trying to shove, right now we're trying to pull off about 1,500 off of this amount. If we drop down to 7,000, what would happen on your project as you proposed it?
A little more difficult, but still workable.
Yeah. I mean, you might be able to get, if you get the Parks and Recreation Department supporting you, there might be some support that can be park maintenance. I don't know. I don't want to put Lori Potter on the spot because it's a very underfunded program.
Right.
And we realize that, but there are, I mean, you got students you can work with. We've found on some of the projects I've been involved in, junior ROTC is a great resource. Go ahead, Rory.
I was because if we basically at this point, if we reduce this one by a little bit, we've reduced everyone's by a little bit except for the Earth Crusaders parking lot project.
And the Historical Society, didn't we?
Well, oh, right, true.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I was almost considering, to, you know, even 8,000 for, Research Foundation, bringing Earth Crusaders maybe down to, well,
Take it down to 10.
I was almost thinking 10 originally, but that's before I considered the, so I guess we could say 10.5. I don't know. What would that do?
You never put them in, and we can always change them back up. I mean, you're suggesting 8,000 in for the Research Foundation, and then you're suggesting 10,500 for the Earth Crusaders?
Right.
Okay, let's go ahead and see what that does. Otherwise, we'll get the students back up here and do the calculations. and that brings it down. Yes. So.
I just talked to Jerry and Floyd, and we have some basalt in our yard, and Jerry and I have talked about it, but we hadn't, we weren't sure what the design looks like and this kind of thing.
And I think Commissioner Maceda may have contact for basalt.
You look so old.
Anyway, I was just going to suggest that there may be some materials that can help with that to get
Right.
that out of the organic process.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you, Nancy.
This actually does it. We're now below the 110.
That'd be most workable and very much appreciated.
And just because we've done this,
Doesn't do anything for Helen.
if Earth Crusaders wants to say something more.
I'd love to use Nancy's generous bylaw.
Okay, very good. Yeah. Now, we've done what we've done. We've brought in Bailey Estates and Clackamas County Historical Society. Any amendments anybody wants to suggest?
Well, we didn't do the Hillendale, it gets nothing.
Well, I mean, we've been trimming, and the question is, do you want to rank it in at this point into the?
We haven't ranked it at all yet.
We haven't taken action on it. And I'm not talking about it coming in 3 minutes late. I'm really talking about in-kind not meshing and so forth. I feel sorry about doing this. It is a new neighborhood, fairly new neighborhood association, but I would still like to argue to keep the total less than 110. So if you're going to do that, you'll have to shade. I think people agree with that.
Well, I mean, I think you don't often get grants the first time you apply.
That's right.
So,
yeah, we've had some people come back.
the learning process, a lot of people have applied for grants. Bailey.
You did.
We'd love to be able to do it, but there's a limited amount of money.
And I think Larry wanted to talk about ESC.
See?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, very good.
We're first time apply for a grant, but one point that you brought up, Rocky, was that there was no letter or recommendation from any of the neighborhood chairs. We're all chairs of our neighborhoods that vote in the CIC, and it was voted within the CIC. And we discussed it with the city manager, and I brought up the point that it may be a conflict of interest. But he has agreed that the city would insure our trailer, and that he would give a favorable comment.
I make a comment about this application or a question. My first year on commission, we had our citywide Earth Day cleanup, and I organized the crew that worked the area of the McLaughlin Promenade adjacent to the VFW. And I remember just being so impressed with the little trailer that we had as part of that citywide cleanup. And I can't imagine we don't still own that little trailer. And I'm just wondering if, I don't know how often that little trailer is used, but couldn't that trailer be put to use for
the whole intent of the program? That's what it's for.
That trailer?
Yeah.
Use that exact same trailer.
No, the trailer that we want to do the acquisition of.
Yeah.
But you want to buy a new one.
Well, I don't care.
No, I'm wondering if there's might be some cooperation, some provision that could be made to use that little trailer for the purposes that you want to use. Buy a new trailer.
Code enforcement.
Code enforcement. It's in this. It's actually in their grant as well. Yeah.
I tried that.
Oh, you did try to use theirs. Oh, yeah.
You tried that.
Well, that was discussed with the police chief that code enforcement has they use that it wouldn't be available to them.
Yeah.
See, what our trailers for storage of equipment, and when we're doing downtown cleanup and that stuff is a support trailer. If there's a big fire, we have to support fire crews to have that there for citizens that are volunteering to feed the crews, water, that type of thing.
I don't, and I'm just not going to, I mean, I don't want to give the discussion departments. Code enforcement's not under the police department.
Yeah, I know, but, okay, I understand that.
It's under Parks and Rec, I believe. It's under Parks and Rec, so. I will also have a discussion with the Parks and Rec director.
We could trim ours. What we were trying to do was to equip the trailer, but we could start begging, just don't leave your doors unlocked.
The thing is, we ranked somebody above your project that actually we're not funding either. That's Oregon City Chamber of Commerce by local.
Not hurt my feelings.
Okay. So anyway. Are we ready for a motion?
I move to adopt the final tally here.
Okay, so it's that 109,850 to up through Clackamas County Historical Society.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you all. You got a second?
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Thank you.
Discussion?
Well,
In this case, I guess we'll call it. Yes, go ahead.
Well, I was going to just say that as is always the case, there's always so many great projects and so little money. So it ends up being one of the toughest things we do. is really going through this and trying to figure out how to allocate a limited amount of money. But I think everyone who submitted an application has a great project, and I'm glad we could fund as many as we could. And you know, the rest of you keep going, keep applying and going to other sources as well. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Okay, any other discussion? I'm going to do a roll call on this, just to do a roll call. Go ahead and call off the people, or I can call off the people. Either one. I'll go call. As soon as I find my list of people.
I can do it.
Okay.
Commissioner Mom? Aye. Commissioner Collette?
Yes.
Commissioner?
Aye.
I said Nacita.
I've been mistaken for him before.
I was.
Was I mistaken you for me?
No.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Foley? Aye. Commissioner Smith?
Oh, so that wasn't my phone.
And then
Okay, so unanimously approved on those projects. Thank you. Well, thank you all of you that were willing to take some cuts in the process, and thank you very much.
What did you say? That we got done?
No, I'm not going to do another meeting. Yeah, it went well.
Thank you, Larry. Trying to figure out.
Thanks. Thank you, everybody.
No, I know, I don't
I played my father towards the end of the year. We will have a couple of budget in 5 years. Wednesday night out. Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday. Okay, Monday or Tuesday.
Oh, it's wonderful. You go, please.
Respecting that, please. You got a big glass coming in. It doesn't mean as much, because you guys do make a great deal of difference. So thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much. I will.
I need to see
Yeah, I know you always and everything is going really well.